Hi guys, it's a disappointing weep here, and today we're going to be looking at my manga haul for January 2021. This month we've got 23 different books to look at. I had ordered some more books, but they haven't yet arrived, so they'll roll over into my next haul in February. So let's get into it. The first manga I want to talk about is a manga that I've been searching for a few months now. If you've watched any of my previous haul videos, you'll see me talk about it. It's actually not a very good manga, and I don't think that it's great quality, but I just really want them in my collection, and that's K-On! So this month we managed to pick up volume 4 and K-On! College. The K-On! Series, for anyone who doesn't know, has been out of print for a long time, and the volumes are ridiculously expensive. They can be around £50 each. So whenever I see them cheap, I try to pick them up. I'm trying to finish my collection. I'm now only missing volumes 2 and 3 to finish my collection, but they are two of the hardest to get. I'm really glad I found volume 4. Volume 4 can reach ridiculous prices, and the same for K-On! College. This is a series that I previously owned. I owned the first 4 volumes of it, and I sold them when I was going to university. Now I want them back in my collection, but they're a lot more expensive now than they were when I sold them off. I haven't owned K-On! College before, and I've not read this yet, so I'm really looking forward to reading this, and I'm hoping that it might be a little bit better than the rest of the manga. The nice thing about K-On! College 2 is that it's never been shown in the anime, so it's a completely fresh story for me, which I'm really looking forward to getting into. The next manga I want to talk to you guys about is volume 2 of Chainsaw Man. Now, Chainsaw Man for me is one of the best series that have come out in recent years. We're only on volume 2 and I'm absolutely hooked by it. It's funny, it's dark, it's got great action scenes, the art is absolutely stunning. Let me find some good art to show you. Yeah, the art is just absolutely fantastic. So Denji is this guy who's down on his luck and he's in loads of debt, and he's forced to work to pay off his debts like a dog. He has a pet dog devil thing that's got a chainsaw for a head, and then while out on a job, Denji gets betrayed and killed. And the dog sacrifices itself to revive Denji and to give him the same kind of powers that the devil dog had, which is to like fire chainsaws out of itself and be able to fight with chainsaws shooting from his body. It's a really great series. It's only on 2 volumes, so it's something that you can really easily pick up now and start reading and keep up to date with. Chainsaw Man is definitely something I'd recommend people to pick up. This month I went really ham on making sure that I finished Goodnight Pum Pum. Goodnight Pum Pum was a series that one of you guys recommended. I bought volumes 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 of the 2-in-1s in a single volume this month, and I've got to say it was just absolutely amazing. The art's fantastic, and it's also something that steps away from a lot of the stuff that I normally watch, which is giant robots fighting each other or shonen action series. And I think because Pum Pum is this kind of nondescript, like bird-looking thing, you can almost put yourself in his shoes when you're reading through it. And he goes through so much. And the really nice thing for me is the first few volumes kind of have a time skip of 2 years as they go through each other. And Asano, I mean, Asano hit it out of the park for me with this series, and I'm definitely going to pick up some more of his series to go on with. I think there's one called like Dead Demons that I'm looking at picking up next. But Goodnight Pum Pum, I'm going to speak about in a separate video. But I just think that the presentation of these volumes on its own is just absolutely fantastic. I'll put them on my shelf just so you can see the really great thing that they do when they're all together as well, that I was really impressed by. So I don't know how well you can see that, but on their spines they sort of make up Pum Pum's face, which I think is a really cool touch as well. I am going to do a separate video about Goodnight Pum Pum, talking about how much I absolutely adored the series, but there's plenty of people already that have spoken about it too. But Goodnight Pum Pum is one of the other series I bought this month. Next up is a Urasawa book, and it is Sneeze, which is a collection of short stories. I really enjoyed this too. It wasn't too expensive. I think it was about £15. I got it a bit cheaper because it was on a 3 for 2 offer. But the really nice thing about this was that I could kind of read one of the short stories and then get on with whatever I was doing. The great thing about Sneeze for me is that there's some really varied stories in here. It's got so many different styles in here. There's a story about a guy who can kill people just by looking at them, and he's hired by a gang to go and do hits. There's a story about this guy who runs into a sidekick who tells him he's going to become a journalist and win a Pulitzer Prize, and they uncover this big kind of like heist situation. There's a story about this guy who's obsessed with kaijus, who goes to Japan to look at the kaijus and seeing how it affects Japanese people when kaiju attacks happen on their shores. There's also this really fun little story here about these 2 mice trying to steal a slice of cake, which gave me real Pinky and the Brain vibes, which I thought was really cool too. So I mean, it's all Sora, you know it's going to be good. It's definitely worth picking up if you've got the chance. So that's these. We're going to move on to some Gundam manga next, so if you're not interested in that, you can skip ahead. The first one is Mobile Suit Gundam Thunderbolt. This is a really dark, gritty Gundam story, and it's one of the stories where you really can't pick a side almost in what's going on. On one hand, you've got this kind of war-obsessed Gundam fighter who is absolutely in love with just going out and fighting and listening to jazz music. On the other hand, you've got a guy who pilots something called like a Hyper Zaku, I think it's called, which is where he's had all of his limbs removed so that he can be a better Zaku pilot. It's really, really dark. What I'd actually recommend for this series, rather than reading the manga, although the manga is good, is to watch the anime for it, because the soundtrack is unbelievable. It's full of some fantastic jazz, and it's really, really worth a watch. These are probably the nicest looking manga that I've picked up in my collection recently, and that's Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin Volumes 1 and 2. These are really nice premium hardback versions of the Gundam manga that tell the kind of start of the Gundam series. I know for a lot of people, the dated animation of the original Gundam anime can be quite difficult to get into, and I've found that these have been a really good way of me getting into kind of relearning what took place in the original Gundam timeline. The paper quality is really, really high. The art's fantastic. I've picked up Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin mainly because I really, really loved the Gundam Origin Advent of the Red Comet anime that came out in 2019, I want to say. So this is another way of me being able to engage with that storyline and to enjoy those characters again. They are really, really nice premium books, but they're also really expensive. They're $30 each. But I've got to say, for the paper stock and the quality, I think they're probably worth it. So this is a series that I'm really hoping to continue throughout 2021. Show Me Sample is a series that this month I finally managed to get up to date with. I bought volumes 12 and volumes 13. And this is a series that started off as a silly slice of life anime about a guy who's abducted into an all-girls school, but it's still remaining a silly slice of life series about a guy that's abducted into an all-girls school. But we're finally starting to see some decent character development in these latest volumes, especially volume 12, which is about Kujo, who's this maid here. And we're starting to learn her backstory, and that's proven really, really interesting. So once I finish these two volumes, there'll be 2 more volumes to go. The series ends on volume 15, and then hopefully I'll be able to share some more thoughts about the series, which got quite a lot of attention and popularity. And that was what spurred me on to buying the manga, and I've got to say, I really think the manga is much, much better than the anime. Mainly because of the way the anime ends, which I'm not going to go into, but the anime has an anime-only ending, which left lots and lots of people unsatisfied with it. The art for this manga is also really, really good. I'm not going to open it up, because obviously being on volume 8 now, there will be a lot of spoilers, and this is quite an explicit series. There is some nudity in it. If you're looking for a really dark, super-powered seinen manga series, then this is one that's really worth picking up. One of the difficulties of, I think, probably the lockdown and all the shipping problems that people have had and delays is that a lot of really popular Shonen Jump series have been quite difficult to get a hold of. And that was definitely the case with Demon Slayer Volume 19. This has taken me over a month to get a hold of. And I don't mind that because I've got other things I need to read. But I think we've really struggled this month as far as getting popular manga series into people's hands. Luckily, I have now got Demon Slayer Volume 19, and we're slowly getting towards the end of the story. I've not read ahead in the manga, I've only kept to the English releases, but I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what happens next, and I feel like it's really, really starting to get intense now, and the pressure's building really high, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Demon Slayer series will end. My favourite anime film over the last year was a film called Weathering with You. Now, I enjoyed Weathering with You so much that I bought the DVD, I bought the figures, I bought the light novel, and I also bought the manga. And the second volume of the manga came out this last month. So Weathering with You is a story about a guy called Hodoka who runs away from home to go to Tokyo with no plan really. And he ends up finding himself kind of as a rough sleeper on the streets. Another issue Tokyo's facing is that they've got to suffer with this kind of endless flow of rainfall all the time. One day Hodoka goes into a McDonald's and he's given a burger out of sympathy by Hina, who's one of the workers at the McDonald's store. And this begins to blossom a friendship. He then rescues her from some thugs on a street. And they find out that Hina has this power to control the weather, which is something in this series known as a Sunshine Girl. So together with Hodoka and Hina's younger brother, they go around and bring sunshine to people in Tokyo, whether that's for their wedding day or for a festival. which all sounds great, but unfortunately they find that this weather comes at a cost, and the second volume is probably going to start looking into what this cost will be for Hina. I'm not going to go into more details of the story because I think this is something you should really enjoy yourself. And I would say actually, although the manga is great and I really like it, and the book, the film is the place to consume this series. The manga is fantastic, and it's one of my favourite manga that came out last year because I do love the film so much. But really, the first exposure you get to this should be the film. I already spoke once about elusive Shonen Jump series that have been difficult to find this year, and much more difficult than Demon Slayer has been Jujutsu Kaisen. I started picking this up when the anime came out, along with probably 90% of the people that are reading the manga at the moment, and that has meant that the volumes of this series have been impossible to get a hold of. Luckily for us, I think Viz Media realised this, and they've been reprinting the volumes. I know that this had a reprint date in January, which is why it's just come out now, and I think Volume 3 has one in February, Volume 4 in March, and onwards like that. So the story focuses on a guy called Itadori Yuji, who is a high school student. This is him, and that's Volume 1. And he's a member of this kind of supernatural research club at his school, and one day the research club finds this kind of cursed relic, but unfortunately this relic also attracts demons to the school. The research club are attacked by a demon. Itadori eats the cursed relic and he gains some of the powers of this incredibly strong demon called Sukuna. He beats the demon, but after doing this he's captured by these kind of exorcists in this series known as Jujutsu sorcerers, who give him a death sentence, but they decide before he dies they should at least get him to capture and consume the rest of the fingers of Sukuna so that they can get rid of the curse and the demon along with him. It's a really, really cool, dark shonen series. I think it's probably got quite a lot in common with things like Bleach and Demon Slayer. And I think it's probably going to be really big. I think the fact it's got an anime out already shows that it's doing well for itself. And there'll definitely be a second season of it. So I think it's a series that if you are wanting to pick up a shonen series to keep up to date with, Jujutsu Kaisen is a very good choice. Next up is my first kind of more chunky Urasawa series. As you saw, I'd already read Sneeze, which I really loved. I also read Mujiroshi, I think it's pronounced, which I also liked. So I decided to jump in on one of his more chunkier series. And I was struggling to decide whether to pick up 20th Century Boys or Monster. And in the end, I decided to go for Monster. I'll probably pick up 20th Century Boys afterwards. I don't really know anything about this yet, so I'm not going to discuss much about it because I don't want to spoil it for myself. All I know is that the fronts of these volumes all go together to make this kind of big wall gallery. Obviously it's Urasawa, so the art's fantastic and the story's going to be fantastic. So I'm not going to say anything of it yet, so that I can enjoy it afresh too. So hopefully in the future I'll be able to talk about Monster, but I'm going to keep it to myself for now. The next manga I was bought because I binged the series over Christmas and I absolutely fell in love with it. It is an absolute classic of anime, and I'm hoping it might be a classic for manga as well, and that's the Neon Genesis Evangelion manga. So over the Christmas break I watched the entirety of the series. It's not very long, 26 episodes, and then I went on to watch all the redo films and I absolutely loved it. It's one of the first series in a long time that I've rated 10 on my anime list. So I picked up the manga mainly because I've been told that there are some changes in the manga compared to the anime. So I'm hoping there'll be some cool twists and turns in this that I've not yet experienced. I've also picked it up because although I loved Evangelion, there were parts of it that I found incredibly confusing, so I'm hoping this might clear up some of the parts that I was a bit confused on. Along with the manga for Evangelion, I also picked this up, which is the Evangelion Illustrations artwork book. I mainly picked this up because I am somebody who enjoys just flicking through books sometimes and enjoying the beautiful artwork that people are producing. I mean, if I just grab something out of here, I mean, the artwork in here is absolutely fantastic. One of the cool things about this book too is it's not just kind of art from the anime, it's got artwork from kind of promotions in Japan for different products. So it's a really cool little book. Well, not a little book, it's absolutely huge. But for the price, I think it was £20, maybe a little bit less. It was definitely worth picking up, and I've really enjoyed kind of flicking through this and just enjoying some really nice art. Finally, one of the things I've wanted to do this year is to read some real books. And what I mean by that is books that aren't just kind of, graphic novels. So to try and get myself to do that, I've picked up the reprint releases of The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya light novels. So here we've got The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, and we've got The Sigh of Haruhi Suzumiya, which are the first two books in the series. Now, I think they're reprinting these because there's a new book that has either just come out or is coming out in the light novel series. So it's a way of getting new people into the novels. One of the things I would say about these is if you're thinking about buying them, definitely do buy them. I was planning on buying the light novels for Haruhi before they announced the reprint, and they were going for absolutely crazy prices. And I'm assuming because this is Yen Press, who we know don't keep things in stock forever, these will be something that becomes harder and harder to get over time, and they'll increase in price. So they're not only a great book to read, and obviously something that lots and lots of people have already loved and enjoyed, but they're probably a good investment if it's something you might want to sell on in the future. So that's all the manga / artwork books / light novels that I've picked up this month. I'm hoping to do a video next week where I'm going to talk about some of the things I've been reading, so please subscribe for that. I've still got some more manga that I've ordered that hasn't arrived yet. I've got Misfit of a Demon King Volume 3, Jujutsu Kaisen Volume 0, and of course I've got the next few volumes of the Evangelion 3-in-1. So they'll be in February's haul. So please, if you do want to see that haul, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys.